Welcome to spring in February. I couldn't believe it when I saw these daffodils sprouting up so early. They do it every year, but for some reason it's still a surprise, and it's only because they're so close to this brick wall and between the stone sidewalk. It's going to get cold again. If you get some bulbs coming up, don't worry about it. They will bloom just fine. They've been doing this for centuries. Don't try and cover them up. You're going to do more damage than good, that's for sure. Most of what we see here is just foliage coming up and reaching up and saying, is it ready? Is it spring? Then it gets cold and they're like, no, wait. But there are some buds in here. They might freeze out, but for 20 years, these have always bloomed. One thing to know, these daffodils teach us a lesson where they're planted. Because they've been coming up, whoever planted them knew what they were doing. They've been coming up for all these years, and they dry out in the summer. Anytime you're thinking about planting bulbs this fall, think about a spot that's going to really dry out in the summer. Now today our main job is pruning. This is the best time of the year to do it. Meet me out in the garden. I don't know if I can get up. I'm too old. Oh, I don't think I ever heard bones creak like that. Well, before we get started, let's talk about the things that we don't want to prune. And here's a perfect example. These are rhododendrons. And if we start cutting these down, we're going to take these buds off, which in turn means no flowers. Now, if you've got a plant that's in the way, pushing up against the back of the house, something like that, or if there's dead wood, we can cut that at any time. But don't be afraid to cut part of a plant that might be in the way. Yes, you're going to lose your blossoms, but if it's in the way, it's in the way. So carefully think about the different plants you're going to prune. In a general rule, if it blooms in the spring, a lot of times we do not do our pruning. We're doing things that are dormant right now, hardwood trees, things like that. And we're doing it for a couple different reasons. Could be in the way, could be the shape of the tree, could be that branches are crossing. We got three basic tools that we need for pruning. Number one is simple hand pruners, then loppers, and then a pruning saw. Those three things will get the job done. Here's our first example. Even though this is a flowering crab, we're going to work on these suckers here. You know, you got a nice trunk here. You got some suckers that came up. They're growing up into the middle of the tree. That's no good. And when we do snip them off, we don't go right next to the tree. There's just a little bit of a collar there, and that's where we're going to cut it, leaving about 1/4 of an inch. There we go. And we got a lower one. There's a couple others on here. I'll do the same thing too. Take your time when you're pruning. Don't just come in here and cut, and then look back and say, what happened to everything? Every cut, step back, take a look, see what you should cut, what you shouldn't. There's no hurry. All right, let me do a couple more here. I've got 2 more here that I want to get rid of. And I'm going to go back in here. That's good, right there. You know, a couple weeks ago we sharpened all these tools, and it makes a big difference when you're working on here. You want a good clean cut. It looks good. All right, let's work with our loppers. This mountain laurel has some low hanging branches that are dead, and we're going to do the same thing we did with the hand pruners, but the hand pruners are too small for this. We want to use the right tool for the right job. Right there, that's a nice sharp pruner. One here. Like I said, deadwood can come off anytime. This is a great time to be pruning. There's nothing else to do in the garden. There we go. Get any bigger than that, we're probably going to have to use the pruning saw, and I've got a couple more dead ones here that are crossing in here that we'll cut off. All right. Okay, I'm going to keep working here. Again, I'm going to step back, take a look, make sure that what's coming off needs to come off, and then we'll start with our pruning saw. This is definitely dead. It is a little trickier when we have these bigger limbs because we're going to do 2 cuts. Instead of cutting right here in that 1/4 inch spot, we're going to cut out here first, because if we cut in close, when that branch falls, it could start to tear the bark off, which we don't want. That's an invitation for disease and pests when the season begins. So we'll just go out here a little ways on both these branches. One of these is dead, the other one is in the way in a trail over there. And again, you want a pruning saw, you want a good sharp pruning saw. Good. And then this guy. And then we'll go in a little closer. See? We didn't get all the way there. That's what happens sometimes. And that's why we're out here. All right, and now we'll get in right to about 1/4 inch. Good. And the last one, just to reiterate, when you're going to go out and do this, be sure you know what kind of tree you're cutting and what time of the year you should be cutting it. And there's lots of information online. That's it. And I have a whole forest out there that needs some work. That's next, and then we'll finish up. All right, looks good. One more thing, we don't put any kind of tree sap or anything on here. Experts tell us now that's a way to keep diseases in. Let it heal on its own like that. So one less thing we have to do. Now we'll finish up. Be sure to check me out online at everybodygardens.com. Lots of information there about gardening, blog posts, videos, more stories. And that's where my speaking schedule is. We've got a lot of things coming up, including the Pittsburgh Home and Garden Show. I'll be there every day, and you can come for absolutely free just to come see me speak. You can find all the information there. Until next week, you know where I'm at, up in the forest. We'll see you then.